So last time we said we would finish fractions. Shall we do that?
Okay.
Brilliant. Let's see. So fractions are a different way. Like fractions, decimals, and percentages are all just different ways of writing the same thing. So sometimes with fractions, it involves decimals. It involves percentages. But we'll get to that. Do you remember how we multiply fractions? So if you had 2/3 times 3/4, do you remember how we do that?
I think we times together the numerator together.
Yeah. What do you get?
Well, 2 times 3 is 6.
And what about the denominator?
I think we times them together as well,
Correct.
and that equals 12.
And so what's your answer?
6 12.
And do you know how to make that simpler?
Well, we can divide them both by 6.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 divided by 6 is 1. And 12 divided by 6 is 2.
Well done. Okay. So here we have some fractions. So you can see the first one was thirds. If you have a third, a third, a third, they divided a third by 2 and they got a sixth.
Okay.
On the one on the right, well, you tell me, how do you go from having 3 and 2 to 6?
Well, for the other one, it was split up into quarters, but then they divided one of the quarters into equal parts, and so it says instead of 1/4, 1/12, 1/12, 1/12.
Mm-hmm. And so let's say for that one, they went from having 4 and 3 to 12. So what would go in the box?
Times.
Yes. How about this one?
Well, 3 times 2 is 6.
Yes. What is 2 divided by 1?
2.
And so 2 is the same as 2 divided by 2 over 1. 2 divided by 1, same thing. And so you can do a little thing that makes this easier called keep, change, flip. You keep the first fraction, you change divide to times, and you flip the second fraction. So dividing by 2 is the same as times a half.
Okay.
And you get 1/6, which is what we needed.
Okay.
And so for the second one, you have a quarter divided by 3. How would you do a quarter divided by 3?
You would divide the 4 and the 4 by 3.
You would do keep, change, flip.
Oh yeah. So you would flip the fraction.
So the 3 is the same as 3 over 1.
Oh, so you flip the 3 over 1.
Yeah, what does it become?
1/3.
And so it was keep, change, flip. So what else do you do?
You change the 1/4.
You keep the 1/4.
Oh, you keep it.
Mm-hmm. And what do you change?
You change the divide sign
Into?
a times.
Well done. What is a quarter times a third?
1/12.
Well done. And that's what we were hoping to get. So we'll practice that. This is how you divide fractions. So you just flip it, and then multiply as though they were normal. Okay. Any idea about this tricky one?
Oliver shares 1/2 of pizza equally with 2 of his friends. How much pizza do they have each? So Oliver has a pizza, and he shares 1/2 it equally with 2 of his friends. So it's 2 divided by 1/2, or
Well, he has half a pizza and he shares it with his 2 friends.
so it's 1/2 divided by 2.
Well done. How do you do that?
You use the keep change flip method.
Yeah, but the 2 is the fraction, so how do you flip that?
You turn it into a fraction by adding a 1 underneath it,
Yes.
and then you flip that, which becomes 1/2,
Uh-huh.
and then you keep the other 1/2 the same, and you change the dividing sign into a times sign.
Mm-hmm.
And 1/2 times 1/2 equals 1/2.
A half plus a half is a whole. A half times a half?
1/4.
Well done.
Oh, I got that.
And yeah, if you think about it, if you have half a pizza and you cut that in half, that's a quarter of pizza.
Okay.
Any questions about that?
No, I don't think I have any.
Okay, so that was for 3. Let me just see. Well, there's 2 friends, not 3 friends. That's weird. They made a mistake in the book. Let me see. Okay. Let me leave that for a second. Okay, let's try this one.
Alfie has a bag of 24 sweets. He gives half to his sister Emily, who shares them equally with her friends Alex, Rajesh, and Emma. What fraction of the sweets does Emma get? So, Alfie had 24 sweets, and he gives half to his sister Emily, which is 12. And then Emily, who has 12 sweets, shares them equally with her 3 friends. And so that then becomes 12 divided by 3. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then we have a 4, and then we need to turn it into a fraction. I was going to say 1/4, but
well, it's 4 sweets. What will out of the total? So what was the total?
24 sweets.
Yes, and so that's it. That's the answer. Could we make it simpler?
Yes, we can divide them both by 2, 1, and well, 1 would help us, and I think also 4. Yeah, we can also divide them both by 4. And so 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 24 divided by 4 is 6.
Well done. Let's do this question a totally different way. We started off, she had 12.
Yeah.
What fraction of 24 is 12?
1/2.
Yeah. And she divided that amongst her 3 friends. How would you do that?
Well, you would use the keep change flip method. And so you would flip the 3, but it's just a whole number. But instead you would turn it into a fraction by writing down a 1 beneath it. And then you flip that, which becomes 1/3.
Mm-hmm.
And then you keep the 1/2, and then you change the divide sign to a times sign. And 1/2 times 1/3 equals 1/6.
That's it. And so whatever way you do it, you get the same answer. Any questions about that?
No, I don't think I have any.
Yeah. Okay. And you just use whatever method you find the easiest. Let's see. Let's just do the bottom right one, so the most tricky one. This one here.
Okay. So it says divide each of these fractions by 2, 3, and 4. The first one has been done for you. Now at the moment on the root side, they've used the keep change flip method.
Yeah.
And so 1/7, and then so we can also do the keep change flip method for 1/7 divided by 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would flip the 4, but it's just a whole number. So you would add a 1 beneath it, and then that flipped over becomes 1/4. And then you keep the 1/7, and you turn the dividing sign into a times sign. And 1/7 times 1/4 is 1/28.
That's it. And I think you'll be fine for every other thing there. It's 1/28. I think you're going to be okay for those.
Okay.
And then these, you have to match them up. So you have to say which will be the same.
Okay. So we've got here 1/2 divided by 3, 1/6 divided by 3, 1/5 divided by 3, 1/4 divided by 3, 1/3 divided by 6, 1/3 divided by 4, 1/3 divided by 2, and 1/3 divided by 5. I suppose it would make sense to use the keep change flip method again for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
So we did this exact one earlier. I recognize it. So this one here was 1/6. Any idea which one will give us 1/6 here?
Let's see. Just trying to see. I think 1/3 divided by 2.
Yeah, because it would be 3 times 2 on the bottom after you flip it. Okay, so 1/2 divided by 3, 1/3 divided by 2. So can you use that to find any other matches?
I think so. I think about 1/5 divided by 3 and 1/3 divided by 5.
Yeah.
I just found another one. 1/4 divided by 3 is the same as 1/3 divided by 4.
Mm-hmm.
So 1/3 divided by 6 is the same as 1/6 divided by 3.
Well done. Okay. And wow. Let's try this one.
Is cell shares were assigned equally between two tables. The people on each table shared. There were 4 people at the first table, 6 people at the second table. How much is assigned does each person at the first table get? How much does each person at the second table get? Isabel shared the stand between 2 tables. Then the people on each table share their half equally. At the table, and 6 people at the second. So the first sum would be two. Five, five. Well, on the first table there were 4 people, and they each shared their half, and they each shared their half equally.
Mm-hmm.
So the first sum is 1/2 divided by 4.
Mm-hmm.
Keep, change, flip method. You would keep the 1/2, turn the dividing sign into a times sign, and flip the 4 to make it 1/4. And so 1/2 times 1/4 equals 1/8.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first sum. And then on the second table there were 6 people, and so it would be 1/2 divided by 6. Or what? No, it wouldn't.
Oh yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so 1/2 divided by 6. You would keep the 1/2, turn the dividing sign into a times sign, and flip the 6 to make 1/6. And 1/2 times 1/6 is 1/12.
That's it. Yeah, any questions there?
No, I don't think I have any.
Okay, I thought it was a trickier question. I thought it would be a half divided by 4 divided by 6. I thought we'd have to do an eighth divided by 6, but it was okay. Dividing fractions, what do you give yourself?
I think maybe nearly there or nailed it.
I think, yeah, nailed it. Okay, equivalent decimals and fractions. A half is the same as what over 10?
5/10.
And do you know what that is as a decimal?
I think maybe 0.5.
Yeah. How about the last one? 3/4 is the same as what over 100?
I think it's the same as 25 to 100.
That'd be 1/4. 3/4?
Oh, then it would be 75.
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
And what is that as a decimal?
That would be, I think, 0. 0.07. No, wait, no, 0.75.
Yes. So it's got 2 zeros, so there are 2 numbers after it, isn't it? It's alright.
Okay.
How would you divide 5/8, like 5 divided by 8, to get it as a decimal?
It's showing us the bus stop method, so we can't use keep, change, flip. You would work out how many 8s go into 5 first, which is, I think, 0 or
Yeah.
none. And then you would place the remainder 5 next to the 0.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to work out how many 8s go into 50, which is 6 times,
Mm-hmm.
and then with 2 left over,
Mm-hmm.
and then how many 8s go into 20? Well, it goes into 20 twice, and then there'll be 4 left over, and we will work out how many 8s go into 40, which is 5 times.
And so what is 5/8 as a decimal?
0.625.
That's it. So sometimes if you want to change a fraction into a decimal, you write it over 10 or 100, and that's easy enough. If you can't easily write it over 10 or 100, you just use the bus stop method and divide it in 5 divided by 8 and get it
Okay.
that way.
Okay.
Let's see. So what would this be?
So 13 over 25 as a decimal. Well, I think it would be something quarters, because I think 25 is the same as 1/4. Or
It'd be easier to get it over 100, but you have the right idea.
easier to get it over 100 and 13 over 100. Oh no, 13 over 25 equals something over 100. I think it's 13.
So what do you have to multiply 25 by to get 100?
I think you need to multiply. I think you need to multiply it. I think. I think you need to multiply it 4 times.
Yeah, so that's, I think, why you were thinking of quarters. And so, how do you get what goes on the top?
Well, you do 13 times 4.
Mm-hmm. 62. Well done. Any questions there? Oh, hold on. We wanted it as a decimal.
Yeah, decimal.
And so what is that as a decimal?
0.6.
Well done. Okay, how would you do part A?
Part A. Write the following fractions as decimals. So part A is 16 over 20. Well, you to get to times 20 to get to 100.
Mm-hmm.
You times 20 by 5.
Yeah.
And so you times 16 by 5, which equals 80.
Mm-hmm.
And so so that is equivalent to 80 over 100. But they're wanting it as decimals, so it would be 0.6. No, 0.80.
Yeah. And that's the same as 0.8, but they're both correct.
Okay.
How about part B?
Part B. So we have 12 over 24. Now that is the same as 1/2, which might help us.
Mm-hmm.
So so it's the same to 1/2. And the time 24 to get to 100, you need to times it.
Or do you happen to know what a half is as a decimal?
Well, a half as a decimal is 0.5.
Yes, that's fine. That's done.
Oh.
I'll leave C. Okay. So you have to fill in the gaps. What do you think it goes in the gaps?
Well, I already know what. I think I already know what two of them are.
Mm-hmm.
Because 0.5 is the same as 1/2.
Okay.
And 3/4 is the same as 0.75.
Mm-hmm.
For the other one, for the first one, I think. Actually, hang on. I think it. I think for the bottom one it's 0.
So what do you think this is? It's halfway between 0 and a half.
Well, I think maybe 0. 0.
Or it might be easier as a fraction. Halfway between a half, 0 and a half.
Well, as a fraction, it's 0, 1. I'm not sure.
Halfway between 0 and a half. Well, I suppose you just do a half times a half.
Well, that equals 1/2. Well, no, a half times a half equals 1/4.
Yeah, halfway between is a quarter. And
for the decimal, I think it's 0. 0.2.
Yes.
Oh, 0.2.
Close. What is? So if it was 100, half of 100 is 50. Half of 50.
Well, half of 50 is 25.
And so this is 0.25.
Oh, okay.
So it just comes up a lot. The way you know that a half is 0.5, a quarter is 0.25.
Oh, okay.
And you could do it using the other method. Okay, so part A. Now let's do part C. What is shaded?
We'll write a fraction and a decimal to describe the amount of each shade that has been shaded. Well, for C, 5 of the triangles in part C have been shaded, and in total there are 25 triangles.
Okay.
So it'll be 5 over 25.
And so you have to say what that is as a decimal.
0.2.
Or you could make it over 100 and do it the usual way.
Well, 25 times to get to 100 is 4 times.
Yeah.
And 5 times 4 is 20.
Yeah.
So it's 0.4.
So we'll times 4 times 4, and what would that be as a fraction over 100?
20 over 100.
And so as a decimal?
0.20.
Yes. Or 0.2, same thing.
Okay.
How about the middle one?
So the middle one is B. So 9 of the squares in B have been shaded, and in total there are 36 squares.
Mm-hmm.
So the fraction for part B would be 9 over 36.
Mm-hmm.
And for the decimal, it would be...
So maybe simplify this first.
Simplify it first. Well, we can divide them both by 9.
Mm-hmm.
So 9 divided by 9 is 1. And 36 divided by 9 is 4. So it's 1/4.
Yeah.
So 9/36 is the same as 1/4. So the decimal would be 0.1.
Do you remember what a quarter is as a decimal?
0.20 or 0.2.
That was a fifth. Okay, so what would be a quarter or something over 100?
Something over 100. It would be 100 over 100.
So 4 times what gives 100?
25.
Yeah.
And 1 times 25 is 25.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, so 1/4 is the same as 25 over 100. So the decimal is 0.25.
Well done. And that was this one that we saw a second ago. This one here. And so you can see how like a quarter is a common fraction. You know, a half is a common fraction, and so they kind of come up a lot.
Okay.
Okay, let's try part C.
So part C, write the fractions as decimals. So part C is 6 over 30. That's what, for starters, 6 over 30 is equivalent to... it's 6 over 30 is equivalent to 1/5.
Mm-hmm.
And 1/5 is the same as, well, 5 times 15 is 100.
5 times 15 is 75.
15. So 5 times, 5 times 20.
Yeah.
And so 1 times 20 equals 20.
Yeah.
So 1/5 is the same as 20 over 100. I think you can simplify 20 over 100.
You can. You would get 1/5, but they want it as a decimal.
Okay, so as a decimal, it's 0.20.
Well done. And how about part D?
Part D, so it's 8 over 64. 8 over 64 is the same as 1/8, I think.
Yes.
And that's simplified would be well, actually, I think you just leave it as it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, go on.
so as a decimal, it's 0.
For this one, what I would do is the Buchalter method. So the 8 divided into 1.000.
Okay. So, how many 8s go into 1? That's 0 times.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's 0 times with 1. Actually, no, with 8. Yeah, with 1 left over. How many times 8 goes into 10? That's once with 2 left over. And how many times 8 goes into 20? That is twice with 4 left over. And how many times? And well, 8 goes into 40 5 times.
Mm-hmm. And so as a decimal?
0.125.
Well done. Any questions or anything there?
No, I don't think I have any.
Okay. Let's see. So this time you have to work in reverse. You're given a decimal and you have to write it as a fraction. Any idea how you'd do part C?
C. So for C, it's 0.2 equals something of 25.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 1. Well, 20. 0.2. So. Well, 0.25 is the same as 1/4.
And so 0.2, what is that as a fraction? What fraction would give you 0.2?
1, not 1. I was going to say 1/2, but no, it's not 1/2. That's not 0.5.
So it's 0.2 is the same as 0.20.
So it's 1. Actually, no, not 1. So it's 25.
Not 25.
So
20.
20 over 100.
Yes.
Oh.
So we have to somehow change that into something over 25.
Well, 25. Well, 100. Well, 100 divided by 4
Mm-hmm.
is 25. And so 20 divided by 4 is 5.
Well done. And so, yeah, so because we're now doing the reverse, we have to divide the top and bottom. 0.2 is the same as 0.20. That is 20 over 100.
Okay.
And then we divide and it's 5 over 25. So we're now doing things in reverse, which is always more difficult. How about part D?
Part D. So part D is 0.75 equals something over 100. Well, 0.75 is the same as 3/4, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's so 0.75 is the same as 3/4. So therefore, times you work out how many times 4 goes into 100.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is, well, 4 goes into 100 25 times.
Mm-hmm.
And so 3 times 25 is 75.
Mm-hmm.
So 75 over 100.
Well done. And you can see 2 numbers after the decimal, and so it's 2 zeros on the bottom.
Okay.
So that'd be a quick way to do it. Any questions about that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so equivalent decimals and fractions.
I think maybe nearly there.
Okay. Multiplying decimals I'll leave, or will I? Let's do it a little bit, see how we do. How would you do? No. Just leave that. It's just because, yeah, we'll stick with just the fractions.
Okay.
Yeah. So, how would you do these two?
You would, so the first one is, what is 1/4 divided by 2? So you would, I think one of the simplest to do it is flip, change, keep methods.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would keep the 1/4.
Mm-hmm.
You would change the divide sign into a times sign, and you'd flip the 2 to make 1/2. And so 1/4 times 1/2 is 1/8.
That's it. I think you're fine there. How would you get what goes in this box?
So that one is 1/6 divided by 3. So again, the flip, change, keep method is one of the simplest ways to do it. So you would keep the 1/6, turn the divide sign into a times sign, and flip the 3 to make 1/3. And so 1/6 times 1/3 equals 1/18.
Well done. What would be the last one, part C?
Part C, so complete the following divisions. So part C is 1/2 divided by 3. Again, we could use the flip, change, keep method. So you would keep the 1/2, turn the divide sign into a times sign, and flip the 3 to make 1/3. So 1/2 times 1/3 equals 1/6.
Mm-hmm. 1/6. What would be the middle one here?
So 1/4 equals something over 100 equals something. Well, 1/4 is the same as 25 over 100, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that as a decimal number, it would be 0.25.
Well done. We did A and B. Okay, how would you do part C?
Part C. Write the following fractions as decimals. 3/8 So 3/8 as a decimal. You would work out, I think you first would work out how many times 8 goes into 100.
It won't be easy. What's the other way you can turn a fraction into a decimal?
You can. I think the easier way to do it is to work out what 3/8 is equivalent to.
Well, that's in its simplest form.
That's in its simplest form. Not sure.
How did we do 5/8? Do you remember?
Well, 5/8 we divided 8 by 5.000.
Mm-hmm.
So we would do the same for 3/8.
Mm-hmm.
So we would do 8. No, actually, no, we would do 8 divided by 3.000.
Mm-hmm.
And so how many 8s go into 3? None. With 3 left over. And then how many 8s go into 30? That is I think 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
With 6 left over. And then how many 8s go into 60? That would be I think 7 times.
Yeah.
With 4 left over.
Mm-hmm.
And then how many 8s go into 40? It goes into 45 times.
That's it. And so, what is 3/8 as a decimal?
0.375.
Yes. So you can always use dividing
Okay.
to get the answer. How about the first one here, 2a?
2a. So, what fraction I just have to describe the amount of each must be shaded. So, for the fraction, 6 of them have been shaded, and
Mhm.
so, and in total there are 12 of them.
And so, what is it as a fraction?
6/12.
Mm-hmm.
And that as a decimal, I think is 0.5.
Well done. What would be part A?
Part A. So you would work out how many times 12 goes into 100, which is 10 times.
And that would be 120. Or maybe simplify it first.
So simplified 3/12. You can simplify them both by 3.
Mm-hmm.
So 3/12 divided by 3. Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that becomes 1/4.
Mm-hmm.
So now we know that 3/12 is the same as 1/4. We then I think the decimal is 0.1.
No.
4. Wait, no, 0 point. Wait, no, not 4. 0 point. 2.
Or how would you get it over 100?
Or 4. Wait, I think it's 0.25.
Well done, 0.25. And so just because it comes up so often, you've kind of remembered it. Yeah, it's basically, 100, 50, 25. How about part B?
Part B. Well, 12 over 24 is the same as 1/2.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the decimal is 0.50.
Yes.
Okay.
Or 0.5, same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I can write 0.50. Right. Okay, working backwards, part A.
Working backwards, part A. Okay, so 0.5 is the same as, I think, 5/10.
Yeah. How about B?
Part B, 0.25 is the same as something over 40. I think it's the same as
Or any fraction that is the same as?
Well, it's the same as 1/4.
Yeah.
So, and it's so the fraction is 4/40.
Well, 4 times what gives you 40?
10. So it's 10/40.
Well done.
Okay.
10 over 40. And then we said we would leave that one. Yeah, how was that for you, Richard?
Quite good.
Yeah, so that's all of fractions. So basically, fractions are a bit like negative numbers in that they come up all the time. You always get a minus number somewhere. You'll always get a fraction somewhere, but you've done fractions for the most part, which is, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, comparing, and converting.
Okay.
So is there any topic in particular you want to do next time, or should I?
I don't have any particular topics at the top of my head, so I think you can decide.
Okay. I think I'd go back to kind of doing them in the order I was doing. Any questions for me in general?
No, I don't think I have any.
Okay. Well, well done, Richard. You did great, and I look forward to talking again next week.
Okay. Before you go, my mum's coming.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to say bye, that's all.
Okay. Have a good week, Melita. Good to see you.
Yeah, you're doing well, aren't you, Cherub? I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, sounded like...
He's finished fractions anyway.
Wow, well done.
Okay.
So you're becoming a bit of a fractions whiz, I think. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. He's gotten much better at them now, because we did like very challenging questions.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah. Good, well done. So, so you'll be carrying on with the sequence then, will you, next week?
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
I'd go back to like what I was going to do, long multiplication, short division, long division, and then we come back because we've done this, then we would go forward to like percentages, which you would usually do after fractions.
Yeah, sure. Yes. All right then. That's fine. So you'll carry on with that then next week, Richard.
Okay.
Sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. Okay then.
Have a
That's
good
lovely.
week.
Thanks. Have a good
Bye.
week to you too. And yeah, see you next week.
Bye.
See you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Click on.